Hey,
Hi,
good evening.
good evening. I did it.
You did it. We're here. It's nice to
You're
see
here.
you.
Yes.
Yeah. To everyone joining us, welcome to Whitman-Walker Health Instagram Live. The community health team at Whitman-Walker has been doing these Instagram Lives for the past several months. And tonight they've turned it over to Shania and I. We've really been engaging with our followers about everything and anything from facts about COVID-19 to protecting yourself from STIs, to connecting with the services that you're looking for. We're going to keep making these lives. We hope that you'll tune into this Instagram as often as you can at Whitman Walker for more content. So my name is Britt. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm joining tonight as the Director of Gender Affirming Care at Whitman-Walker. And with me is one of my very dear colleagues, Shania Thomas, who is also going to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Shania Thomas. My pronouns are he and she. I don't use they. I am one of the youth psychotherapists at Whitman Walker. I work in the behavioral health department. I've been there 5 years at this point. And so I'm really excited about our conversation today because it's very timely.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, and thank you for being here to discuss. I think what we set out to do was just a conversation around community care and like resetting our own habits. And Shneya and I have been talking about this for a while, and like had lots of energy. We thought we were going to do a two-part series, and like lo and behold, how appropriate with this content. Like we had to reprioritize and like reassess capacity. So we're here, and it's been a long week, and I'm just gonna ask this awkward question of like, what has your week been like since we talked last?
Ugh. Um, I think as a particular as a therapist, like there's always just like, how are you? And I'm supposed to say like, oh,
Oh,
great. Um, and I just,
right.
I think I've just been very honest, even going back to what you said earlier about like, us having to like reprioritize, just being honest about how people are feeling, where people are. So I feel like for me, this week, I've not been numb, but I've kind of just been like, I'm not going to give a reaction until I'm supposed to have a reaction. And that's holding me over pretty
Yeah.
well so far. And I think that's also due to kind of the responsibilities that I have. I
Mm,
am somebody who, I'm in school, I have a whole little human being that I have to take care of. I have other jobs, like I have things and other people that I also have to hold space for. So I think being
mm.
mindful of what my capacity is and being able to move around that has really been helpful. So long story short, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay
Yeah.
until I won't be. But I have like a
Okay.
whole slew of self-care things that we'll talk about, to get me through when I'm not so great. So
Okay. Thanks for being honest. I really value that. Yeah. Um, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to also like put into practice some of your own techniques.
mhm.
And that feels like very real that you wear many hats and are doing lots of different things this week. So I hope you're able to sort of hold that for as long as you need to. Um, yeah, I think since we last talked, if I can share, it's also just been like a strange week. I haven't been working. I had a gender affirming surgery last week, and so I've been like not in my workspace, and it's so great to come back and talk with you and like kind of reconnect to some of these strategies that I think are going to be really necessary, so that I can carry that with me when I go back into work and try to talk with people about where they're at. Right? That's what we're talking about today, I think. Okay.
Yes, and welcome
Whew.
back. We're glad to
Yeah,
have
thank
you.
you. Thank you. Yeah, this would be you could do it on your own, but it's good to get to talk with you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know one of the things we'd said is like imagining the idea of thriving, and that wow, I want to believe in those possibilities too. So I'm eager to hear from you. Can I ask, do you recommend like a reset at like in your personal practice or for your patients, like at every change of seasons or like moments of collective trauma? Like what do you suggest?
Yeah. So something that one thing that I always say is that we've never done this before, right?
Mm,
Like none of us, like we've
yeah.
never been in this situation before. So even as somebody who's been doing this for like 15 years, like there's no book that I have read that says like when you're quarantined for at least an 8 months, like this is how you feel and these are things that you need to do. So a lot of this stuff has been like on the fly. Some of it has been just like listening to my clients and myself around just feeling. So
Yeah.
one thing I thought about, especially in being quarantined since like March, is that at the 6 month point, like, it was starting to, the seasons were starting to change, it's getting a little
Yeah.
colder, people were getting more anxious. So I was really like, what's going on? And so something that I thought about, I have one client that loves meditation, loves yoga, and has been doing meditation and yoga for 6 months, but was still feeling anxious, still feeling the sense of anxiety and depression, and was just like, I'm doing all the things. Why isn't it going well? And I
Yeah.
said, maybe it's time to like do a little reset. Like maybe it's
Mm,
time to give your body something different. We can still exert that energy, but maybe into a whole nother medium, right? So, that client went and got a punching bag and it's just like it worked, being able to still
yeah.
exert that energy into something else. So,
Mm,
something to really remind people is that we've been through 2 seasons at this
oh,
point, right?
yeah.
So we're going into a whole other season. I also want to recognize that people are grieving.
Mm,
We didn't get the summer that we wanted. So
yeah.
people no longer had that opportunity to be able to enjoy themselves. So we're getting into a place where holidays are coming up. People are or are not going to be around their family this season. So I think something to think about is what's going to happen, but also
Mm,
where you are. So it's getting
mm,
colder, it's getting dark out. So really it's time to, do a little bit of fall cleaning at this point and
yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
switching up some of the self-care techniques.
Mm,
I know for me, like the change in seasons also means wearing more clothes and the heat being on. So my body is just naturally a little bit more warmer and that feels
yeah.
uncomfortable to me. So I've been finding time to like be outside with the cool air or make sure
Yeah.
that I have like a glass of cool water or a bottle of water around me
Yeah.
just to be able to regulate some of the things that I'm feeling. So really this is an opportunity that we get to sit and be mindful about what our bodies are doing and our minds too at this point.
Mm. Thank you for all of that. Yeah, I love the invitation to be like differently thoughtful and like maybe I should have thought of this as common sense of like the world around us is changing, like our patterns and routines and the ways that we feel care may also need to change. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that. Um, and just thinking also particularly what's happening out there in here directly and individuals, all of that, and for so many people, like what's happening politically is personal and affects everything. Are there any special practices that you would suggest for kind of sustaining oneself when the personal and political are colliding in these ways?
Sure. Yeah, I know there's a conversation that folks are having where it's just like if you're out of touch with it, like if you're able to move away, then that's a privilege, right?
Mm,
And yes,
yeah,
and some
yeah,
people need to, right? Like some
yeah,
people are just like, just let me know when it's over. I don't need to hear anything else. And then I do
yeah,
have, a good small section of folks that are all in it, that they are down hard with the CNN, like they're, in the Facebooks, in the TikToks, like they're doing it. And
yeah.
so respecting both ends, being able to be mindful of what you can and can't handle and letting your
Mm,
body tell you how much is too much.
okay.
So people who are getting into, want to know all about the politics, to look into it, great, fantastic. My suggestion to folks like that are get your two or three websites that that are fact-based, that you feel comfortable
Yeah,
with. After you go through a stroll of those, move on to something else. Being
yeah.
able to give yourself the space to even process and kind of think about the information instead of just doing a lot of intake. And then on the other end, if you are all out avoidant and don't want to involve yourself with it, that's okay too.
Mm.
If we need to be notified about things, somebody will tell you. That's definitely
Wow, yeah.
that's how I roll into it. Like somebody's going to hit me up or text me and let me know that, all right, things are going down. Fantastic. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me know. So, I think it all depends differently for everybody. I don't want to shame anybody on either end, but it all is about how it feels good for folks. And again, if things are happening, especially when we're thinking about policies that are made, Supreme Court, have conversations with folks who know a little bit about those things and maybe, find things aren't fear-based, and be able to help plan, working with a mental health professional, talking to friends who are in some of those areas, that have a little bit more information. Like being able to be informed is great and feels good to some folks. But kind of understanding how your body works and knowing how much is too much is important too.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like you just gave so many people permission to like not tune in, which you're sure I'm reading that on Instagram all the time as I'm like on Instagram, that I don't have to be on Instagram. And so what would that be like if I was just like, oh, I can trust that I'll get this information if I need it for sure, and checking in with people. Thank you for encouraging that kind of like examination. And I'll just say like, yeah, I think as a white person, I'm also reflecting on other practices that I need to sustain that I know we're not going to talk about here tonight, and perhaps we'll have a different Instagram for that, and all the work that white folks have to do. Do you have thoughts on how people can establish like a safety or a way to feel safer in space again, maybe, or yeah, how to feel safer these days?
Yeah, I'm all about a safety plan.
Mm,
Safety plans don't have to happen when things are going awry. Like sometimes it's just good to have like a list of people that you like to go to for help,
yeah,
or making sure that like what the numbers to the hospitals are, or
yeah,
knowing who to call when you're feeling unsafe in your body. It might not be a mental health professional, it might be a good friend or family or somebody that you're close to. Do we know when things go down in some way, shape, or form, who else to contact or what to do? And kind of
yeah,
have those things stocked. I'll say for me, as a Black queer person, like, I'm a little worried, about what's
yeah,
going on in the world.
for sure.
So I prepared myself. It made me feel good to go, get some supplies to be able to have
Yeah,
some snacks on hand in case I needed to stay inside. It
yeah,
felt good to know where all my important documents are in case I
yeah,
needed to go somewhere, those things. It doesn't and I feel like I've had clients talk about it in that way, and they're like, I feel like I'm losing my mind. And
yeah,
being prepared, it might. And
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being prepared, right? Because if
Mm,
you need those things in some other point in time, at least you know where they are. So I'm
yeah,
all about like figuring out, what is going to be best for you and your family, especially if you're taking care of other people.
yeah,
what is the thing that you need to go to when things don't feel great?
yeah,
These are my go-tos, always just being prepared and having them there.
yeah. Thank you. Um, I think something that came up that maybe I asked the question differently when we were talking the other day, but just like this this world that we're in right now, I think you named something about like encouraging creativity and innovation. Can you share a little bit about how we're in like a space that opens up for that?
Yeah, so when people started losing different opportunities or their jobs, or when
Mm,
jobs were moving from in person to online, or different opportunities were moving from in person to online, I think a lot of folks that I work with and myself, we were having a
yeah,
hard time, right? Like we were just like, well, what do you mean we got to work at home? And sometimes that
yeah,
feels like the boundaries are really off and nobody feels comfortable. And so I think one thing I've been encouraging folks is to think about, well, now we have an opportunity to shape the way that our day looks, right? Like, when we need to take breaks, now we can do that, and we don't, and we don't have to ask
yeah,
permission. Or now that, if you feel like you need to work more hours one day. I think for me, a 4-day work we usually work, so I'll work more hours on one day so I can have a day off. Being able to kind of move things around for yourself and being creative about what a day looks like is power
yeah,
to me. It's giving
mm,
yourself some autonomy to be able to create what that day looks like for you. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm all about like being able to create sustainable relationships in your community,
mm,
especially I know for my queer and trans folks, who are feeling isolated, that the internet and kind of groups online have been really helpful
yeah,
too. There are a lot
yeah,
of awesome and dope like IG lives and,
totally,
conferences and things that
yeah,
sometimes are now free because they're online and everybody has access to them. So I
Yeah.
think people are figuring out with either the low resources that they have or the low amount of safety that they feel, that they're being creative around what safety looks like for them and
Mm,
having access to a larger world that can possibly give them resources that they need, including kind of like that self-care and that community check-in that you were talking about earlier.
mm. Thank you. Right? Like, yeah, I know when we talked months ago, it was like at the height of like certain communities feeling or experiencing like intense violence. And I think this week is like traumatic and violent for lots of folks still. So expanding
Yeah.
those care networks, like tapping into online spaces if you're not feeling great at home, or maybe you're with people with different political differences at home, like those online communities are really opening up. I love that you named it like cultivating relationships, like, yeah, spending this time to like be in touch with community that is gonna like hold you. That feels really incredible. Thanks for sharing those. And maybe this was my last question was around just like, yeah, we talked a little bit about resources, online community. What are practices that you suggest when it comes to like checking in with oneself around safety and how one's doing?
hmm I always like to do the old like checking in with my senses. So
Mm,
thinking about hearing, taste, touch, sight, smells, and I always include intuition. Like I feel like we also have this like little bit of, whether it's a person or whoever that is to you inside saying
yeah.
like, that doesn't feel good or that does feel good. So intuition I include of just, being able to do an overall check with yourself. Like I said
Mm,
earlier, like when I'm inside a lot, like I get really warm. And so
mm,
even if I feel anxious, sometimes I'll say like, okay, so how is my body feeling? And I'm like, oh, I'm feeling really warm right now. Maybe I need to step outside for a little bit. Or maybe I'm hungry. I didn't, I missed drinking water. I didn't drink my water today. Or I didn't have a snack. I didn't take a shower. For some people, showers are really cleansing for folks, especially when you're thinking about touch. Doing things that are against your boundaries. So
mm,
maybe had a full day of Zooms, all day or a full day of a
yeah.
meetup and you're feeling really buzzy and you're just
Yeah.
like, why do I feel like this? And something inside is like, you've been in front of a computer all day.
Uh,
So being able to like do a checklist of things down the line that are really coming up for you, I think is something really important to take care of and trusting that, right? Like
mm,
again, we all are having the very different experience of sitting inside by ourselves in isolation to a certain degree. And so
yeah.
we're so used to checking in and kind of getting cues from other people that at this point it's really important to kind of center ourselves and think about what we need. But having this
Mm,
ability to create all types of rest, like we have a little bit of that autonomy now. So some of that is like taking advantage of that and trusting yourself.
rest. Oh, you're like just. I wanted to say a royalty, or like I was like, what's a god of just like the rest? It's so vital. It's so necessary that people be reminded of that. And like I think you'd shared the like the nap ministry where I'm like, yeah, it's like a church of rest and
Yeah.
encouraging that. So thank you for bringing it back to that and just like checking in. And thank you for all of these like nuggets and like lines of wisdom to just like recenter and reground despite the weather, despite yeah, or maybe not even just despite, just like the general practice of it's time to listen to your body and reset some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like going back to, we've literally never done this before.
Mm,
So, the pressure of having to still do things, as, our schedule, allows us to
yeah.
still pack in things to, we are being as resilient as possible. And we're also human beings with very perishable bodies. So being mindful
Yeah.
that we can't hold it all at once and that because things are either like relaxing in some way or
Mm,
opening up in another way in terms of just like how we can plan and be innovative, like use that for yourself. Like what are the things
yeah.
that you plan on getting into, that you cherish and that you desire, in order for your self-care and being able to invest in that. Like we have the opportunity to do that, take that for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. I really always learn so much from you and learn with you. I'm grateful to be in this space with you today and just to be able to listen. So thanks for making time with everything going on.
No problem.
And I think I just want to acknowledge the audience. If you have any questions or concerns, Whitman-Walker Health is here to help. We want to be a part of your support. We have so many services, including primary care, behavioral health care, legal services, gender affirming care, COVID-19 testing and treatment, and more. So if you call 202-745-7000, you could get a same day or next day appointment. And if you're looking for free HIV or STI testing, call 202 797 4439, and our community health team will help you get an appointment for that. For more information, please visit our website or follow us on social media. Instagram is this handle at Whitman-Walker, Twitter at Whitman-Walker, and on Facebook we are Whitman-Walker Health. Shania, I hope you get some of what you need this week. I hope all of you out there get a little bit of what you need in the weeks to come. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.